Hey everyone, and welcome to another installment of Beyond the Mask. Today I'm going to be discussing the future of Scream and Sidney Prescott's role, or rather the importance of Sidney and why it's important that she be included in the story going forward. The topic of Sidney's involvement in this franchise is currently one of great debate amongst fans. While some are eager for her to return, there are others who believe she's no longer necessary to the story, that her story is complete, and that shifting focus away from Sidney as a character allows her to have the happy ending she deserves. In this video today, I'm going to be giving a full analysis on why I believe Sidney is still important to the story, and how her character's presence is even more valuable to the story now, despite her lack of involvement in Scream 6. So sit back and relax as we discuss why Sidney Prescott is still important to the ongoing Scream story. Back when the original Scream was released in 1996, the horror genre received a very well-deserved overhaul. Scream introduced the audience to a concept that was both terrifying but also had a great story behind it, something horror had begun lacking towards the end of the 1980s. One of the major tropes that the movie introduced was the inclusion of a well-written protagonist. Various horror properties before it had introduced the audience to a single frightening character, as that character preyed on an innocent protagonist through the story. The difference between that setup and what Scream had with their story was that the majority of the time, the villains were the main character of their movies. Nancy Thompson spends a great deal of time learning about Freddy Krueger, and the mystery surrounding who he was, or what he was, is the main focus of that story. Laurie Strode, iconic as she was a victim that Michael Myers preyed on, but it's Michael the audience is introduced to first. It's Michael that we see being hunted by Dr. Loomis. It's very much his story, as opposed to Laurie's. The same can be said for numerous other horror movies. As those franchises progressed and grew in size, it didn't matter if the protagonist returned or not, as the main character was the villain. With Scream, we're introduced to a story where the main character is undoubtedly the protagonist. We follow the story through Sidney's eyes, and we're introduced to various characters as she meets them, from the moment the opening scene is finished. This is what made Scream different. It swapped the villains every movie, whereas horror properties before it swapped the heroes instead. You see, despite being a horror movie, the Scream franchise in a lot of ways separated itself from being typical at the time. It poked fun at the genre, but it attempted to establish itself as a more well-rounded story. In many ways, something that is overlooked, the movie was very much a good versus evil story. We see this set up and introduced with Scream 3, with Roman being introduced as the overarching villain of the entire story. When Randy Meeks begins instructing Sidney on trilogies in Scream 3, he lists numerous movies but doesn't state any horror movies in that list. This is because whilst the franchise is a horror franchise, its story doesn't follow the same pattern. Sidney's story in this franchise is just as important as, say, Luke Skywalker's in Star Wars, or Harry Potter's, in those movies and so on. It's the first set of continual horror movies that lends its focus on the hero's story more than the antagonist's, with Scream 3 serving as the conclusion to the major story point that was set up in the first movie. The audience sees Sidney go through a large amount of trauma. We see her vulnerable, we see her fighting for her life, we see her growing up right before our eyes. And by Scream 4, we see how much the character has grown from all those years ago in 1996. When the audience is taken on this journey with a specific character, it's understandable as to why if a new movie is introduced, the general wonder is to, where is Sidney? Or is Sidney going to be in this story? Because for majority of the fans of Scream, Sidney is the hero of it. In many ways, the character has been the most important element of the entire franchise since it begun in 1996. So currently standing, the Scream franchise has shifted focus elsewhere to the Carpenter sisters, or more specifically, Sam Carpenter. Neve Campbell didn't return for 6 due to a pay dispute with Paramount. Many have found this to be confirmation the character is no longer needed, and that the movies can survive without her. This statement from a story perspective is somewhat untrue. Sidney may not be a central focus this moment in time, but as of right now, she's the only person who has been targeted continuously through major moments in her life. What's more, she's the only person to have survived all of her outings with Ghostface. In doing so, Sidney has taken out numerous serial killers and ended their reign of terror. As the current story stands right now, Sam Carpenter has been battling internally with her inner conflict between killing in self-defense and killing because she likes it. The only person who has had a similar experience is Sidney Prescott. The difference is Sidney was focused on herself being a fighter. That kept her strength flowing whenever a new killer would target her. Strictly speaking, Sam Carpenter needs Sidney more than ever, even if just to finalise her own beliefs, that defending herself is okay, and that doesn't make her a killer. Who better to serve this message than the original hero of this franchise's long story? From a story perspective, Sidney's story did end with Scream 3, but Wes Craven still brought the character back for Scream 4, as despite the story being over, the character still existed, and if a new Ghostface attack was going to happen, who better to stand central focus of the story than the hero of the previous installments? It's very similar to how Marvel focused trilogies on their superheroes, but didn't have any issues in bringing those characters back to the fold following the conclusion of their heroes' respective trilogies. They allowed their story to continue elsewhere. A story being over doesn't mean a new one can't be created or that the character doesn't have a specific purpose. Their knowledge, their history, and everything they've accomplished in their specific stories is what makes them vital to other stories going forward. Bringing back that specific character is comfort for fans. We've already been on a journey with them, and it's familiar to us. It also gives us the feeling that, despite things looking bleak for the current heroes, they have someone around who has survived this. A lot. It's easy to amplify a villain in horror, but having a hero who can fight back against that villain is still something that hasn't been established much in horror. Scream was the first to do it. If anything is going to honour the legacy it set up, it's including the hero of the original story that drew the audience in the first place. And that's it for this video. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.